Since you asked, I had a great weekend.
How great was it?
I took my son to see Paul McCartney Friday night. That was unbelievable. Because it turns out he was.
Yeah.
Wrote a few very good songs. It's just a fantastic experience because he's amazing and his songs are amazing, but to be there with an 11-year-old who also knew all the words was pretty special. Then Saturday night I went to see, my wife and I, a local band, U.S. Royalty, which brought down the house at this place off of H Street, Northeast, where all the kids go, apparently. Very cool. So I recommend that. It was a musical weekend. And with that, no, I'll refrain.
Jay's week ahead?
You want my week ahead. Seriously, that's U.S. Royalty. There, you'll be hearing from them, I'm sure. And with that, I'll take your questions.
Thank you.
Except, before I do, hard stop at 1 p.m. because we have the dual president event.
The White House doesn't often put out statements from the president on trials that don't directly involve the government. Why did the president decide to put out the statement yesterday on the Zimmerman trial?
The verdict, obviously, was fairly big news, and it was something that was being watched nationally. And the president, of course, had spoken about Trayvon Martin in the past after he was killed. And the president wanted to convey that he felt that the death of Trayvon Martin was a tragedy for his family and for a community, but also for the country. And he wanted to note that in the wake of the verdict, the strong passions the case had elicited could be running even higher, and that it was important to remember that we are a nation of laws and a jury had spoken. The president also wanted to ask every American to heed the call for calm reflection from Trayvon Martin's parents, a rather remarkable request given how much they have suffered and were suffering after losing their son. And he wanted to express his view that as we reflect in response to that call, that we should ask ourselves if we are doing all that we can to foster compassion and understanding in our communities and to stem the tide of gun violence, as well as how we can prevent future tragedies like this from happening.
Even though the jury in this case has spoken, the Justice Department is still considering whether to file criminal civil rights charges. Does the president feel like that decision needs to be made quickly in order to have some kind of finality to this case?
This is a decision made by the Justice Department, by career prosecutors, and all questions about how that process is undertaken should be directed there, and that is not something the president involves himself in. As the Justice Department said yesterday, they first acknowledged last year that they have an open investigation into Trayvon Martin's death, and they are continuing to evaluate that evidence.
But since the president did speak about this case last year in pretty personal terms, did he have any personal reaction to the verdict? Does he have any personal feelings on the need for the Justice Department to make a decision on this quickly?
Well, he has no opinion to express and about the disposition of how the Justice Department would look at this. He did speak about it in personal terms, and I think his statement yesterday reflects how the loss of a young person is a source of great anguish and pain for the parents of that person, for the community where that person lived, that young person lived, and for the whole country, because the loss is greater when a young person dies, because the potential of that life is so unfulfilled. So I think that's how the president viewed it then and views it now.
And then just quickly, is there any reason that President George W. Bush is not coming to the event today?
Oh, I think you would have to ask the Bush family. I know I should say this, having covered President George W.